Welcome to Escaping the Echo Chamber. Are you ready to escape the echo chamber? Because that's where we are right now. That's where we stay outside the echo chamber. Today's a good one. Today's a good one. And in fact, we're gonna start off with a story. And this is an interesting story because it gets you inside the mind of somebody who dealt with a very what was a life changing event for them. So yeah, we're gonna. I want to tell this story because this is a young lady, and I heard this story, and she was describing a situation. Well, before she even got to the situation, she was describing where she was at mentally, um, politically, emotionally, and how this event changed her perspective. And it clearly it appears to have had a huge effect on the trajectory of her life, of her career. And so yeah, this is a young lady, and she was very active in social justice and concerned with social justice. In fact, not only was she just like personally concerned, she was actually involved. She would actually uh, organize and engage in activities with BLM, Black Lives Matter. In fact, she was even getting paid from Black Lives Matter. And it's interesting because she starts talking about how at that time she actually hated police, not just did dislike certain cops and certain activity. She said she hated police. She had seen the events, of Michael Brown getting killed. She had saw Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, and those events were part of what made her so hateful. She watched Philando Castile get killed, and she said these events were part of the reason why she absolutely hated police, and she believed that the police brutality, the police murder she had been witnessing was due to racism. Well, event comes where she's 16 years old now. She's driving, and she's driving a little bit too fast. So she gets stopped by the police. So she gets stopped by the police, and it's a white cop. And before he even gets to the car, she says she's crying hysterically. She's just, and she's so afraid. And she said this white cop looked at her, saw that she was afraid, and told her that he's not here to hurt her. That event, according to her, revealed that everything she had thought she knew about police brutality was a lie. That event changed her entire perspective. That event counteracted the murders of Michael Brown, Philando Castile, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, and many other events that we've actually witnessed with our eyes. That one event told her all of that was a lie. And so she starts digging deeper, and she starts looking into the stats, the data. And she finds that police brutality, while it's something that needs to be discussed, it is not. It is not because of racism. Police brutality happens, you know, because in fact, police brutality occurs, and police kill far less people than they encounter. Like it's such a low percentage, she says. And then she says how she looked at the numbers and found that okay, yeah, black people are killed at a higher rate than other races by police, But but that's just because black people are black people are criminals. Well, more so. There's more criminality. That her phrase was there's more criminality in the black community. And so she realized that, hey Kenny, welcome to the stream. And so she realized that because of just because black people are getting killed more by police, just because black people are getting stopped more by police, it doesn't mean police are racist. It just means black people commit more crime. this this young lady, her name is Amala Ekbenubi. She is one of PragerU's new propagandists. This video she dropped, I think earlier this week. That's when I saw it, and and it's interesting because the part that I really find interesting is that she said she'd seen all of these. She claims that she's seen, okay, you've seen Fernando Castillo, you've seen Eric Garner, you've seen Michael Brown. The story, we didn't actually have video of that, but you've seen Tamir Rice, you've seen all these events, and then you get stopped one time by police, and the police doesn't doesn't murder you, and that tells you, oh, police brutality can't be real. Um, Whether or not she actually believes that, because you got to realize PragerU has a lot of grifters on their staff. It's what they do. From people like Larry Elder, who will make a living of telling people just comply, you know, until of course we're talking about like mandates, vax mandates, mask mandates. Then all of a sudden it's a different story. But if he's talking to black people, you just comply. That's how it goes. White conservatives, liberty or death. um, but it's astounding that that's all it took for her to just say that, oh no, this is not real. Um, this is a myth, and now she is propagating propaganda from PragerU. The funny thing is, okay, but it's not actually a funny thing. The the interesting thing is she did that video earlier this week, and then like yesterday, video is made available of Patrick Lyoya's murder, where up until now there had been, the police had said certain things had happened, but they hadn't released the video. But what we did know, even before the video was shot, we did know that the bullet that killed Patrick Lyoya entered into the back of his skull. He was shot in the back of his head. This 26-year-old black man was shot in the back of his head. But police brutality is a myth. That's not the only thing that happened. Okay, so something else that happened this week, because we're going to get back to the Patrick Lyoya story. But there's another case that I want to talk about just briefly. This guy named Robert Hankard. Robert Hankard was a detective with the Baltimore Police Department. I say was because this week he was convicted in federal court. He had not only he was lying to the feds, but he had planted evidence, falsified documents in order to get search warrants, and there's so much corruption. If you don't know about Baltimore, the police department, Baltimore Police Department had a huge shakeup. In fact, it was so huge that they're actually making a TV show about it. About there's a TV show coming out about a whole crew of crooked cops that's based on a true story. That like that we're seeing convictions happening right now. This is happening right now. We're seeing these convictions happening. Of course, according to PragerU, this is a myth. Police brutality isn't real. It's not really happening. But here, let me tell you more about the story. So, this guy Hankard, Detective Hankard, he's actually at home. He's at home, and he gets a call from some other cops, and they say, "Hey, we need your help. We need a toy." And so, what they're asking him for, they're at a crime scene. Well, they're in an arrest scene, and they need a fake weapon that they can plant on a suspect to justify why they arrested the suspect, why they, or why they have initiated any of the things they've done. They needed a pretext, and so they called him up to bring the fake, the fake weapon that was going to act as their pretext. Like, just think about that for a second. Like, this is just, hey, yeah, we need you, and they just automatically, he knows what they need, and he's able to come and bring it, and he's willing to come and bring it. So you're talking about a level of corruption that is so ingrained, so routine, that just, hey, just pick up the phone, call me, I'm there. I'm there. Whatever you need, whatever dirt you need done, I'm there. So like the guy that he plants the gun on, they uh they didn't have a search warrant. They didn't find the drugs on his property, and they planted cocaine in his motel room so that they could justify entering his motel room, and they planted cocaine in his truck so that they could justify going into his truck. So they're planting weapons, they're planting drugs. This is a detective. This is a Baltimore detective that was just convicted on Monday. Just convicted for this on Monday. But you see, when PragerU talks about police brutality, they will only they will mention, they will say the words police brutality, and then they will just start talking about police murders or police shootings, police killings. They won't even talk about other police violence that doesn't result in people's deaths. They won't talk about police corruption. They won't talk about police falsifying records and planting evidence. They won't talk about that. Let's take a look at some comments. Kenny, um, once again, the story about, yeah, if you're black, yeah, everyone else has, and PragerU, like PragerU, literally will have tweets and videos about telling black people to comply, and then when it comes to everybody else, when it comes like to these mandates, oh no, don't comply. They literally saying don't comply. Freedom, liberty. Another gun, yes, gun task force, absolutely. Like these dudes were filthy. These dudes were absolutely filthy. It's crazy. It's crazy how corrupt they were. The Shield, but in real, like like, yeah, like the Shield, you think that's just a fictional. Nah, the Shield was not fictional. It was. Hey James, welcome to the stream. Police officers are the greatest heroes in America. Like Tatum is such a like he's a liar. He's just it like in no factual basis. No factual basis for the stuff he says. I forgot how they discovered. I think it was time card fraud. I remember one of the commanders was about to get kicked off the force, but a higher up stepped in. Uh, escaping that name, Prager useless got me riled up. Like man, dude said Prager you. I'm looking at you like you was killing it in that one bit. I blame TV for the acceptance of crooked cops in society. Watch Law and Order type shows with the understanding of rights. It will amazing. Like it's now that's an interesting point, and I hadn't even thought to talk about that, but we have to. There are like 1,000,001 cop shows, and yeah, 1,000,001 is exaggerated, but let's talk about them. We've got Law and Order SVU, Law and Order Criminal Intent, Law and Order UK, CSI, CSI Miami, CSI Miami, CSI New Orleans. Um, you've got FBI. The I think you've got a couple of those FBI shows. You've got Blue Bloods. You've got and these are just like these are the less corrupt guys. Then you have the shows like The Shield, and it's funny with The Shield because they would always, even with all the corruption they were doing, they would present some kind of justification for why they were doing it. And remember, at the end of The Shield, Big Mackey gets away. No accountability. Then you have a show like 24. And 24 is creating these worst case scenarios where to justify government doing whatever it wants to, like, oh, but this is an extreme case. Like, yeah, we may have to murder a couple of people, we may have to torture people, but it's for a good cause. And all of this stuff, all of this stuff that the TV is just constantly pushing is clearly designed to just condition people to accept that this somehow makes sense, that this is somehow acceptable, and this is somehow necessary. I remember watching a teacher do an 8-hour. Wow. Wow. Some of y'all should be thanking the white man, otherwise you'd be somewhere else. Yeah, Tatum has some ridiculous takes. Ridiculous takes. But yeah, this Hankard guy, like yeah, he was doing so much stuff. But like I said, he's just one of the one of the guys that were involved in this whole task force, because that whole task force was rotten to its core. But even after that, you may say, okay, yeah, that was bad. Yeah, that was corrupt. But you can't say it was racist. I know that's what people say. So I said, hey, now, number one, I think we need to stop and take a look at what would it take to prove that something was racist to the likes of the PragerU crowd, these propagandists that just like pushing these ridiculous talk about. What would it take? Because the numbers, because like she started out talking about, oh yeah, it's black people, this can't be racism. And then she looked and she says she found that the numbers actually supported that claim. But yet she still chose to dismiss the numbers and say, oh, no, it's just because black people commit more crimes. And she used the FBI statistics that talk about arrests and ignored the fact that ignored several facts about that. Ignored several facts, including that one, the the information is self-reported from precincts and police departments. So police departments aren't mandated to bring it, and it's information they're voluntarily providing. She also ignored she also ignored that if the cops are only in one area, yes, that's where the arrest will be. If the cops if I if I decide to look for if I decide to look for rats on the in the subway station, and I'm only looking for rats in the subway station, I refuse to look, like, let's say I only uh just choose to look for rats in 42nd Street, Grand Central. That's the only place I'm looking for rats. And then I find a whole bunch of rats, and I'm like, okay, look, this is where the rats are. All of the rats are here at 42nd Street. I found their base. This is where they're all coming from. Case solved. Once we get rid of these rats, rats are gone. And people are like, wait, where else did you look? Did you look at Hoyt Skimmerhorn? Did you look at Fulton? Did 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 did, did you look at 149th? Did you look at any other location for rats? No, you only looked in one place. So yes, that's where you find the rats. If you're only looking in one place, if you're heavily policing black communities, guess where you're going to find crime? Black communities. If if you spend 6 hours, 6 7 hours out of an 8 hour shift in a black neighborhood patrolling, and then at the end of the day say, oh wow, most of the people I arrested today were black. Wow, what a coincidence. It couldn't have anything to do with the fact that you spent majority of your time in a black neighborhood. Wow. But that, because it's not even about logic at this point. You see, the thing that I found most interesting about her story was the fact that she said she had gotten paid while she was working for BLM. So right then and there, that makes me wonder how committed she was to the cause and how much she was with the cause because, hey, it paid the bills. Because now the other side is paying the bills, and now she just completely believes that. I mean, I look at some of the other characters that PragerU likes to hang with. Dave Rubin, who's clearly like, hey, write a check. What? Where's the money at? That's that's where my opinion will be. Whatever, wherever the money's coming from, that's my new opinion. The dude went from being liberal to being moderate to now he's actually now he's actually supporting religion. But hey, these are the people who are paying his bills. So these are the opinions he's going to espouse. And then you've got the likes of Larry Elder, who's been making a hell of a career for many years, parroting certain nonsense. But that's the nature of the propaganda beast, especially these grifter organizations, which is what PragerU is, one such organization. But I said, what would prove it? Because the numbers aren't proving it. Even looking at the numbers and even looking at the disparity, the clear numbers that yes, black people are being killed at a higher rate than other races, that's still not enough. Still not enough. Like, apparently she didn't even look at sentencing and charges, the types of charges and levels of charges that black people are being hit with. Didn't look at any of that stuff. So clearly that stuff won't happen. The question is, what if, like, what would it take? Would it take for us to actually have cops explicitly saying just racist stuff and vile anti-black stuff? Is that what it would take? I mean, somebody, would that finally convince these propagandists, oh, you know what, maybe there is some racism involved in police brutality? Let me just take a look at some let me just take a look at some comments. um Cold. I will. Yeah. Black male dreads hoodie. No, but I'm law abiding citizen. Yeah. As long, and yet you're always going to be at risk because of, yeah. Well, I mean, when it comes to police shows and movies like SWAT, Criminal Minds, those are fiction. It's okay to have cops as good guys on TV show because it's fancy. It's real life is the problem. If it was against, it would be a whole different story. Welcome, PJ. Definitely. Oh yeah. By the way, Hoyt, if y'all have never been Hoyt Skimmerhorn, one of the one of the like it's actually synonymous with disgusting subway stations. It's wow. Like it has a, just thinking about it, I can remember the smell of Hoyt Skimmerhorn. Like in fact, that was an insult that I remember growing up. We used to like if you really want to insult somebody, you say, "Man, you smell like Hoyt Skimmerhorn." That's just to give you an idea of how disgusting that particular subway station is. Got something better. United States was founded by Arab men. Do you all want to live in a country owned by natives? America or Africa? Oh man. I mean, they break constitutional rights on a regular to the point where the average citizen would think that it's okay to break laws and uphold laws. And that's the thing. So now, with all of this conditioning of, because basically what's happening is these are people that have to deal with the police, that are subjected to police activity, and even these are people that will serve on juries. So if you've got TV shows and media making people think this is okay, this is affecting how they will, what will happen when they get there, they get in the courtroom, they're sitting on a jury, and a defense attorney is trying to get evidence thrown out because certain rules have been broken, and people are like, well, we're still going to find them guilty because it's the police. Either in some cases they'll just take the police's word for it, or in some cases they'll be like, but it's for the greater good. So yeah, yeah, I don't know. I'm guessing. I don't know which BLM she was working for, whether it was a local one or the national one. Dave Rubin found out the hard way, and that's what's so funny. But he actually went on Glenn Beck, and he's making excuses for why why they're right to criticize him. Like he's just that much of a shill. No self-respect, none. Classical liberal, and he's not even that. Like he's not even that because he wanted to pretend to be a classical liberal, and to lean into a libertarian, and what I really think is he keeps citing the Larry Elder interview as his moment, right? And I've heard people talk about how much of a grifter Larry Elder is, and so I wonder if the moment that changed things wasn't what we saw on camera, but was something that may have happened off camera, and Larry Elder telling him, "Listen, you can get paid. I'm just saying this is a hell of a grift, and it's very profitable." I'm wondering if that was the actual moment. So whenever somebody says that, like Larry Elder, like when these big pundits say Larry Elder is the one that really changed him, I'm like, I wonder if that's code for them saying that, yeah, that they saw how much money they could make in just grifting people, and they went ahead and uh, took the bag. Welcome. You want to make money, assimilate to white supremacy. If 2/3 of your country accepts you, it's literally double your odds of success without even trying. And really, you're seeing that all over the internet, all over these social media, where these people will just spout these ridiculous talking points, and then they'll have these uh, 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 these white conservatives just showering them with views and attention, and oh yeah, you're awesome. But and like a bunch of y'all know, like with Lucas, Lucas starts calling them out, and then suddenly they don't like it. Now it's like, wait a minute. No, you're supposed to be dumping on black people. No, no, you're not supposed to be looking at us. You're not supposed to be telling us the truth. You're only supposed to tell them the truth. We don't want to hear the truth about us. Like, man, you're a liberal. The downfall is, as PBT says, when white supremacy is done with its tools, it breaks its tools. Yeah, Professor Black Truth. I mean, it's like with Japanese culture, with the samurai in fantasy land, they are portrayed as noble warriors, but in reality, they're like cops and military fighting, filling the, yeah. There's serious money in putting down black people if you're black. They always have an audience and can find, yeah. Yeah, and so, like, you're seeing more and more people seeing that there's profit in this propaganda, and they're going towards it. But in fact, I got to do a show on that. These morons make excuses for racism in the comment section of a video. They were defending Hulk Hogan's racism because he was in the privacy of his own home. Yeah, make it make sense. Owens is always booked and ready with the talking points. And that's all she does. Doesn't do reading. The only thing she reads is her scripts. That's it. The only thing Candace Owens reads is her scripts. No data, no research. She just reads her scripts, memorizes her scripts, and spouts the talking points. That's all she does. My favorite TV show of all time is a cop show, 21 Jump Street. And sometimes how the cops act really pissed me off. But looking back at how the cops on Law and Order SVU act, sometimes it's foul. Absolutely. Yeah, Glenn Beck pretty much told him that he wasn't supportive of him having children. But what bothered me was that Ruben never, because it's about the bag. It's about the bag. That's all he was cared about. Like, he literally made an excuse that, oh, I understand why people, and they're right to be upset. He didn't just say he understood why people were upset. He said they were right to be upset. And then he probably had to go home and tell his partner, like, listen, it's for the bag. It's for the bag. We're making a lot of money. Like, peasants in Japan back in those days were terrified of the samurai and had to obey them and their feudal lords. Same with Americans. A lot of and obeying law enforcement and military and politicians. Now, this is an interesting thing, because if we look at movies, like, so there's two ways to look at it. Two ways where we can, like, kind of see. If you look at older movies where, like, a Robin Hood, the Sheriff of Nottingham, or Three Musketeers, where you have these, where law enforcement, we can look and see, oh yeah, they're the bad guys. They're just enforcing the will of somebody who's rich and powerful. They're not actually protecting people. They're hired guns. And then if you look in futuristic movies, and in futuristic movies, people can see it because it's some dystopian future, and the tyrants are in control, and the hero of the story is fighting, is part of the resistance. But then in real life, people can watch we're watching on video, people getting, a guy gets shot in his car, law-abiding citizen, legal gun owner, gets shot in his car. People look at it and they're making excuses. Patrick Lyoa, they watch him get shot in the back of his head. And frankly, right now they've been kind of quiet about that particular case. I haven't heard them speaking on that case. They're going to be speaking on it shortly, and they're going to be, oh, he should have just complied, and they're going to ignore the fact that he got shot in the back of his head. He was like, it's crazy. But we're going to talk more about the Patrick Lyoa case. Joe, welcome to the stream. It's the weak backbone for me. Yeah. Dave Rubin blamed the left for why the right wouldn't accept him having kids. Say what you want about the left, but they would have accepted his baby announcement in a heartbeat. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Yeah, please, when you're coming in, hit the like button. Please, absolutely. Um, so yeah, I listen to his disagreement days sometimes, and you can hear people call him racist when he calls out the BS from the right. Absolutely, absolutely. But like, listen, because even with him losing the subscribers, people were unsubscribing because he wasn't telling them what they wanted to hear. He was calling out cops. He was providing accountability for law enforcement, and they hated it. They absolutely hated it. It's like the Josh Mandel situation, how he lied about. Okay, yeah, that dude is a scumbag. Um, D, welcome. It's good. It's good. We're having a good stream, and in fact, like I'm going to get back to that point about how do we prove racism? You know what I'm saying? Because that's why I was talking about, and it is an issue because if they're saying we looked at the data, and even looking at the data, we're still not going to accept that it's racist. We're still gonna pretend that, oh no, this is not racism. There's got to be a way. Like, how would we prove if they're not even going to look at the numbers and just the rates to prove racism? What would it take? Narrative news. Yeah, news is definitely the news. The media is the fourth branch of government. Still don't know. Oh, PragerU is they're a propaganda outfit that pretends like they're educational, but they're just spouting propaganda. I have sincerely considered pulling a grift myself. Clothing line praising Trump and conservatives and bashing the vax stock picks with white folks all around, and you have a winner. Listen, listen, that would definitely make that was an easy way to make some money. Yeah, yeah, they've got a YouTube channel. They've got their Twitter feed, and they have a website. The cops in Chicago PD are super corrupt, and they are shown as these morally gray characters. Okay, yeah, because you got Chicago PD, Chicago Fire, Chicago medical, something like that. Um, aren't necessarily right all the time, and a lot of these back to blue people were caught up. Yeah. Okay, law-abiding citizens. Okay. Sir Superfly, do I have a political affiliation? So I'm libertarian. Yeah, that's kind of how yeah, I'm libertarian. Afternoon, Trey. Welcome to the stream. And welcome, Sir Superfly. The right white privilege is fake. Also, the right black privilege is real, and white people are oppressed. Dark skin gets you ahead in America. But yeah, so let's get to it, because I'm thinking about how do we prove racism, right? And I said, okay, what if we could have cops actually saying, racist stuff? Like, would that prove racism? Because interestingly enough, in a case from San Francisco, um, back in so the San Francisco case was from 2015, and there was a probe of the San Francisco police, and they were looking at the text messages of these police. And if I'm right, this is the case, and I kind of gave away the kind of gave away some of the game. And I said this is the case because there's multiple cases where this stuff is happening. But if I'm correct, the entire reason of why they found these texts is because these cops was doing something else, and they were investigating them, and they were like, wait a minute, they were looking for texts, they were looking for proof of crime, and then they found proof of just rampant racism in these cops' texts. So in this particular case, this is San Francisco. And now, mind you, San Francisco's a very, California is a very liberal state, heavily democratic, but this is what the cops are on. So one of the text messages Like it's a headline. All N words must effing hang. That's just one of the texts. One of the texts from these police officers is that all N words must effing hang. All N word, like these are the cops. These are the people that have the power to to take people into custody, to shoot people, and we're seeing it more and more. But this is their mindset. They uncovered. So one of the cops that they uncovered it for, his name was Ian Furminger, and he had been sentenced for engaging in corruption. And so when they're looking into his corruption, and they find a whole bunch of racist text messages with other police officers. So they're finding racist text messages with other police officers, and now they're like, "Oh, we've got a problem." And 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 even if somebody wanted to cover it up, the problem is now it's in court documents. So it's in court documents, and so there's documented evidence of these racist text messages between this crooked cop and other cops. So I'm going to read you some other messages that were revealed in this motion. We got two blacks at my boys' school, and they are brother and sister. Their dad works for the school district, and I am watching them like hawks. So, in response to a text asking, "Do you celebrate Kwanzaa at your school?" Furminger wrote, "Yeah, we burn the cross on the field. Then we celebrate whiteness." So you remember how all the talk about police brutality isn't racist, and the police aren't racist. These are messages from and between cops. It's worth every penny to live here away from the savages. Those guys are pretty stupid. Ask them dumbass questions you would expect from a black rookie. Sorry if they are your buddies. Now this is them talking about other police. They're talking about other police. These are white cops. These are non-black cops talking about black police officers. They don't even respect other officers who are black. But yet you've got these propagandists, these tools for PragerU and the conservative Inc. that will sell this myth that, oh, one, they'll pretend police brutality doesn't exist, and then they'll pretend that, oh, well, it's not based on racism. What? The Buffalo Soldier was why, this is another quote. The Buffalo Soldier was why the Indians wouldn't shoot the N-words that found for the Confederate. They thought they were sacred buffalo and not human. Gunther Furminger was a famous slave auctioneer. My wife, okay, so more tweets, more text. These are more texts between the cops. My wife has two friends over that don't know each other. The cool one says to get me a drink, N-word, not knowing the other is married to one. Just happened right now. laugh my ass off. White power. Another text. So in response to a text saying N-words should be spayed, this cop Furminger wrote, I saw one an hour ago with 4 kids. Another text. I am leaving it like this. Painting KKK on the sides and calling it a day. Another text. Cross burning lowers blood pressure. I did the test myself. But remember, according to PragerU, Police brutality has nothing to do with racism. Police aren't racist. It's just a figment of our imagination. In response to a text saying, all N words must effing hang, Furminger wrote, ask my 6-year-old what he thinks about Obama. Wow. In response to a text saying, just boarded train at Mission and 16th, Furminger wrote, okay, just watch out for black males. I hate to tell you, another text. I hate to tell you this, but my wife's friend is over with their kids and her husband is black. If he's an attorney, but should I be worried? Furminger's friend, another cop, says, get your pocket gun. Keep it available in case the monkey returns to his roots. It's not against the law to put an animal down. Furminger replied, well said. But there's racism. It's not real. It's over. That slavery ended over 100 years ago. Black people, why do y'all keep making stuff about race? In response to a text from another San Francisco police officer regarding the promotion of a black officer to sergeant, Furminger wrote, effing N-word. But like I said, you will have these people who will look at the data. They will ignore the data. They will ignore actual watching actual video of seeing cops brutalize and murder black people. Then you have cases like this, and I guarantee you, somehow, some way, if they ever address this stuff, they will explain it away, wish it away, and pretend, oh, well, no, that's just one cop. No, this is not just one cop. This is one cop who was communicating with a bunch of other cops. And the only reason this stuff became public was because this cop was that crooked, got caught, and they're looking through his text messages to find evidence of crimes. And then they find all of this. um gonna look up some of these wow, I'm really behind on comments. White privilege is okay, good. So it's almost impossible to prove racism now because it's so passive aggressive. And so this is a point that a lot of people just choose to ignore. They think that like the Civil Rights Act of 64 ended racism. No, the Civil Rights Act of 64, it made espousing racism as the motive illegal. So now people just don't say it. Now people couldn't kick a person out of their restaurant for being black. So they had to come up with some other reason. Oh, well, so if a black person, well, we have no tables. And the black person looks, the thing is half empty. Oh no, those are all reserved. Those are all reserved for other people coming. They just can't come out and say we don't serve black people, so they have to make up some other excuse. But that's where we're at with when they start talking about when they start talking about police training and bias training. Like, are you claiming that this bias training is going to stop cops from being racist, or is it going to just teach cops how to hide their racism? Because like if there's a class that can stop people from being racist, why are you just teaching it to cops? You know what I'm saying? Because obviously what you're saying is, okay, this is wrong. You can't say this. You can't say this. So what all it is, all of this bias training is telling cops how to conceal racist activity. That's it. It's not eliminating the racist activity. It's making sure that it's not obviously racist. If the cops said racist stuff, fools would defend them and say they were just angry and said it in a moment of weakness. That's exactly that's probably going to be one of the excuses to anybody that would mention this kind of stuff. D. You can't prove racism. The masses of Caucasians live in a bubble. When you shatter that bubble, even if you showed them video proof, they will convince themselves otherwise. Someone told me that. Well, listen, and there's it's amazing that how the extremes that people will go to pretend that racism isn't real, that it's not actually happening. That now, no, this is it's over. That was just in the past. Like it's a new day. And we'll see something happen, and then people will still try to pretend that what we've seen doesn't prove that things haven't changed. I mean, one of the things that makes it obvious to me is like there was a school, a high school, and these kids in this either in the auditorium or in the lunchroom were chanting the N word, and I'm like, these are high school kids. They're younger than me. They never lived through Jim Crow. They didn't live through slavery. They didn't live through Jim Crow. They didn't live through uh you know Reconstruction. They weren't alive during any of that time. They weren't even alive in the 70s and 80s. These are kids. These kids were they're teenagers. Like some of these kids, because yeah, this was if this was in they was born in this century. So they was born after 2000. After 2000, yet they're chanting the N word. Where is this coming from? Like they weren't there. So I mean, there's somebody who said about okay, well, once the racist generation dies off, then everything will be fine. And be like, clearly that's not accurate. If you've got teenagers in a high school chanting the N word, racism is is not going anywhere, and it's not just staying with past generations. The current and younger generations are picking up the mantle. They're picking up the torch and running with it. Hey, Mr. Nick, want to prove racism? Watch Karen videos. How is it possible for these Karen channels to have multiple instances of white people committing crimes daily on tape, but no arrests ever? There's so much racism in the police force that in Dallas they have two separate police unions for the black officers and the white officers. Wow. But we're seeing that it's not just because some people will say, oh, well, they just feel that way about black criminals, which still has still ridiculous. But we're seeing them talking about that way about fellow officers. This guy is talking about friends, people that are visiting his house. So, like a black attorney that's married to one of his wife's friends is in this house, and he's like he's going to keep his gun on him in case he needs to put the animal down. Like what? Like think about it. If they're saying this, he's saying this about an attorney that is married to one of his wife's friends. This is a police officer. What's happening when he's going into a poor black neighborhood, and you got some kid who's just minding his business, but he's powerless. He doesn't have money, doesn't have resources, and now he's face to face with this racist cop. Exactly, someone exactly. In the Amber Geiger case, they showed the text messages of her and another cop, and I were talking about how and we're talking about somebody, black officers, and how they handle the crime scene. That's another case, and I mean, it's just, I mean, because that's another case. This guy has So for all of the comply or die conservatives, your Larry Elder clowns, and his crew, this man, Botham Jean, was in his house, in his kitchen, eating ice cream. He is in his house, in his kitchen, eating ice cream. And he is murdered by a police officer who just walks into his house. Oh, I thought this was my house. Are you serious? Are you serious? Is this the case where some of the cops were also gang members? I'm not sure if that's this case. Because because and that's interesting. So I can't even be sure if that's this case because this cop I don't think was a gang member, but I'm trying I'm the other cops. I'm not sure if the other cops were, but like there's been so many police corruption cases, and like are you talking about Rampart? Because Rampart was separate from this one though. But like Rampart is something I've heard about because I know cats from Cali, who told me stories about Rampart, and yeah, like you've got cops that were they were gangsters. They would like, and so it's really to see all of this constantly happening. Like this is how can you still continue to push these narratives that they're trying to push. PJ, it's actually a good TV show showing that there's no good bad side but neutral and different that to me is better than all of those um good versus evil genres. Okay, is this Chicago PD you're talking about? I'm not sure if that's racist. Could you give us some more detail? Like, are you sure that's racist? Like it's it has a racial tinge, but I think you're exaggerating. I like that one. Thank you so much. I needed that laugh. Don't blame all for the actions of some. Racists have all different jobs. Listen, one of the things I look at this is if you're going to say, well, number one, this proves that there's racism in the police. Like this without a doubt proves that there's actual racism because people will try to explain away the numbers as being something else. But guess what? Racists have all different jobs. I agree. There are racists in the courtrooms. There are racists in the prosecutors' offices. In the in black robes, there's racists. There's racists in the legislatures. There's racists all over. Absolutely. There's racists at every level. And guess what? There's racists in not just in the Republican Party. There's racists, plenty of racists in the Democratic Party as well. I know this. I know this without a doubt. I know this without a doubt. Tech lad, welcome. Where can I find the source for these texts? Okay, so now this guy's name is Ian Firminger. Um, yeah, so if you Google Ian, in fact, let me write his name into the let me just write his name real quick for everybody to know. Brand Banner. Ian Firminger, that's his name. So yeah, you Google him, and this is all from it's from a Vox article. So there's a Vox article talking about Ian Firminger, and it has all of these texts. I guess that's about it was a joke. I'm guessing that's the one you're talking about. My friend is an NYPD officer and he's black. The amount of stuff and corruption he tells me that goes on in his department, you will never believe me. Listen, I'll believe you. I will believe you. I will believe you. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the crazy thing, that it's not just because like even in in the NYPD there was, I remember a case some years ago back in the 90s, and there's been some similar cases since then, but back in the 90s there was a black cop that was shot by other cops responding to a situation, and so he's responding to help, and the other cops just open fire on him, and he's like what are y'all doing? Like I'm trying to help, and y'all open fire on me. Um, this is actually, yeah, it is really disturbing. Everyone, hit the like too. Hit the like button while you're in here, please. Really helps the algorithm and everything. Please hit the like button. Um, what what does white miss? this this cop deserves to get fired. Some of these texts are reminding me of the Arbery case. Yeah, I mean, like that's an interesting thing too, because remember when Ahmaud Arbery happened, you had the Brandon Tatums, the Candace Owens, the usual suspects lying to everybody in the world that, oh no, this isn't racism. This was just they were just protecting the community. These guys aren't racist. They didn't do anything wrong. And then the texts come out. Then the emails come. Then we see all of this proof that these dudes were virulent racists, like stone cold racists. But your Tatum's, your Candace Owens want to pretend that stuff wasn't like that. That wasn't real. That wasn't their motivation. No, they're not racist. They just care about the community, and had the federal number one had the because the state didn't even focus on that. The state just said we're going after the crime, and I get it. Don't try to don't jeopardize the case in terms of focusing on something that's not related to the facts. You have the facts. The facts will support the case. That's what you can do. But now that needed to be made in the federal case because race was that nexus that they were using for the civil rights purposes. And the federal and Biden's DOJ tried to sweep that under the rug. They tried to sweep that under the rug by giving them a plea deal. Like they tried, they didn't want to go through with it, and fortunately, the judge rejected it. The family says, "No, what are you doing? We told you don't give them a plea deal." They traded their Klan outfits for police uniforms. Does anybody remember Chaos One's That's the Sound of Police? Overseer, officer, overseer. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I'm being sarcastic. Like no heroes are all that good, or no villain is all that evil in real life. Both sides can gray because the protagonist and his allies are just human as his enemies and the antagonist. So listen, definitely, I that's definitely something that makes TV more interesting, right? But in real life, okay, I can accept that too, which is why the entire concept of having a class of people who can who have the right to kill other people is kind of a problem. It's kind of a problem. Like, why would you have somebody, okay, killing is wrong, except these guys can do it. These guys can kill people whenever they feel threatened. The rest of us, there needs to be an actual articulable threat, and you need to be actually in the process of getting killed before you can defend yourself with lethal force. But these guys, They can kill anybody, just based on their perception. See, that's what becomes part of the problem. Having grown up integrated, I would never live amongst them again. I grew up thinking I was horrible because of them. Wow. Would never subject my children to living around them and being at their mercy. And but you've got people, and I've seen some threads, some common threads in some of these individuals, that like they want to be away from black people. Like they don't want to be around black people. And so, like, you listen to the way Tatum talks about black people, and he talks about black people being horrible, and oh yeah, well, the reason why I married a white woman is because they actually have families intact. Like, what? Like, black people have, just, it's nonsense that they spout, that they say to justify the horrible stuff that they spout, the horrible lies that they believe. Oh, but Echo, he only said white power because his generators were the color white, and he is referring to the powering up of the department. Some white guy, or the officer Tatum. I would rather be where they are the minority any day. Well, here's the thing. What I find is, and like it goes to that fragility. Like, there's a level of fragility that exists where you have white America doesn't want to discuss, like, literally, like, let's talk about the white conservatives right now. The white conservatives are literally making laws in Florida. They've made a law banning stuff that makes them feel uncomfortable. I'm gonna say it again. They made a law banning stuff that makes them feel uncomfortable. That's literally what the law says. These are the same people that will stand up and cheer for Ben Facts Don't Care About Your Feelings Shapiro, but they're making laws to protect them from feeling uncomfortable. Like, that tells you that fragility is not a myth. It's a very real thing. Completely agree. The right would argue they are just outliers, cognitive dissonance. They will say that, but it's as we see more and more evidence of this coming out. And yeah, you're right. They will say that. But so I will take a look at it in two ways. I'll take a look at it in one way of one that's we've seen more evidences of it. We're seeing more cases come out. More cases, like, do you know how many cases now have to be reviewed because evidence comes out about some cop that's been on the job for 30 years and he was just a virulent racist and just a horrible human being. And if you take a case like this, the only reason we know is because this cop was that corrupt and they were just going through his text and then stumbled upon this stuff. Like, because remember, he's communicating with other cops. They're not telling anybody. Nobody's reporting him. Nobody's saying, "Hey, whoa, this is not behavior or viewpoints that people with the power to take people's lives should have. Like, these guys shouldn't be on the force." That's not what happened. They found these texts by accident. Oh, see, but racism is only a figment started by the left. Yes, it's not real. We had yes, racism can't be real. We had a black president. Like, I don't know why I didn't think about that. But when it comes to black people, then it's everyone. Yep. Here in LA, we have an issue with white supremacist gangs and the police. Yeah. Inner city, there aren't that many, but once you hit the valley, they're everywhere. Florida, the same thing. They found that white supremacist organizations had actually been infiltrating law enforcement, like law enforcement. So police, corrections department. Oh, and corrections is crazy. Corrections is crazy. Yet when the bias is strong enough, you can excuse away any and all behavior that does not suit your narrative. White liberals are annoying, but they aren't as annoying as many white conservatives. So now here's the thing. What I look at, and I'm gonna go deeper at some point in time into this. So it's funny how conservatives will say about white liberals that white liberals will only accept black people if they're and they'll use the term the democratic plantation, right? So they'll point to, if you're not spouting their approved language, their approved talking points, if you're not, so conservatives will say that white liberals will only accept black people as long as they're spouting their rhetoric. Meanwhile, white conservatives will only accept black people as long as they're spouting their rhetoric. So you start. I look at this. I'm saying, okay, wait a minute. So both white liberals and white conservatives don't really, by and large, are demonstrating that they don't actually care about black people unless black people are furthering their own agenda, their agendas. Not, in other words, are furthering the agendas of white liberals or white conservatives, respectively. If black people are actually independent thinkers and not concerned about furthering either white conservatives um, agenda or white liberals agenda, then white conservatives in mass and white liberals in mass will reject them. Like that's a telling that's a very telling uh factor of much of white America. Like how much that there's a significant portion of white America that will only accept others if you're serving their interests first. That's a messed up prospect. I'm against anyone using the N word because many say it and not knowing the history of it. Yeah. Had a white coworker blurt out to me during company outing, "My family is racist as hell, but I don't judge you guys. I like you guys, and I don't even see color." Like he says that, and he thinks you're supposed to be flattered by what he said. He thinks that that's supposed to that's a flattering comment. Glad my school was very diverse. We didn't really have a race problem. Okay. Look at Victoria's Secret, Karen. Oh yeah, like that was like they're coddling this woman who's throwing a temper tantrum in the store. I mean, then and while we're talking about malls, you just reminded me about that Jersey, that Jersey situation where they tackled the black kid. I remember that story so well. The cops were even telling the black lady to back off. Like, yeah, yeah. And Tatum cut the clip down, tried to frame it. Like he's such a clown. He is such like if you're not familiar with Brandon Tatum is a clown. Because she said white tears, and that comment section was just sad. Anyone that says they don't see color, I automatically assume they are racist. Ignoring color is just as bad. Don't be a bunch of freeloading idiots. Hit the like button. Thank you, Joe to go. Thank you. I'll be less. I'll be more tactful, but hit the like button, please. Thank you, Joe. Really appreciate it. Um, Botham Jean's brother forgiving her was just sad. Black people love to forgive every other race but their own. That was crazy because he put all of his pain aside to worry about her feelings, and he ignored the base. What was She was obviously lying, because she says, I'm I I don't care about, what happens to me. Like, if I could trade my life for his, I would. And then as soon as she got convicted, she's filing a notice of appeal. So clearly, yeah, she had she had no interest in being held responsible. In She had no interest in being held accountable for any of that. But they were catering to her feelings and ignoring the fact that she murdered your brother. Uh, there were a few black YouTubers who came to the Karen's defense, and I could probably I have I have an idea of who some of them are. But yeah, there's a crew. Like, there's a crew. In fact, I know Tatum does this little. In fact, he'll probably do it today. I think he does it on Thursdays. He has a panel. Him and some of these some of the conservative ink clowns. Botham Jean. No, there's a case in Cali where police officers went biker gangs and some. Wow. Okay, I got to look up that case. It's just Kenny, aka they get mad when we. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Cool. I'm going to read through these later. This is insane, but sadly not. Yeah, it's. Oh, he was one of those that hated American blacks, didn't date black women. You saw his brother and them hugging Amber at the trial. Yeah. So you think it was more of a faith thing, but like the from him hugging, like, can I hug her? Like, what? Like, if I was the judge, I would have went, what? That's what I would have did. Can you hug? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, number one, like, no, why? Like, why is that even what? And then the judge, and then you have the bailiff stroking her hair, and then the judge gives a Bible and hugs. Like, that was insane. Um, Owen's stance on Breonna Taylor was nailed in the coffin for me. That's when I stopped entertaining anything he said. Yeah, the only thing she said. Okay, Candace. Okay, I, but I consider Tatum and Owens as interchangeable, so I will sometimes confuse their names with one another. Uh, yes, KRS is definitely the go. His brother looked like a straight sucker. Better if it was a black person that shot his brother. It would have been. How dare you? How dare you? I will never see my brother again. You must be buried under the jail. Like, how could you do this? What kind of monster are you? That's what it would have been had it been a black person in the defendant's seat. But Amber Geiger, like, oh, like, I just feel so horrible, so broken up for her. What? Um, yep. And Tatum says race doesn't matter, yet he has made so many videos about why he doesn't date black women. And didn't this dude smack his mom? Like, that, just crazy. That was crazy. They know what the police do to the minorities. That's why they fear being one. Yeah, yeah. Here in VA, Virginia, our governor created a hotline for parents to report teachers teaching diverse topics. Yeah. what's his name was supposed to be. There was supposed to be some hope for him being better than that, but apparently that wishful thinking. That was just wishful thinking. They also fear being a minority because then they can't justify the wealth imbalance. How the small population making so much more money. Um, CRT hypocrisy is the worst. Yet here in Georgia, my son got an assignment in the 4th grade where he was asked to pretend he personally was in antebellum Georgia and write a letter about his life. Yeah, like they did a slave auction, right? They and this is like these aren't isolated cases. It's that now these cases are getting publicity that they've been doing stuff like that. Um, about how much free land you would get in accordance with the laws at the time. Um, yeah, like this is crazy. Let me see. I wanted to sign an say slaves weren't allowed to read or write. My husband came up with the idea to do a slave narrative. We made sure to say we. Oh man, that's funny. The teacher was like getting nervous as that was being read out. White people fear being a minority and are lashing out because they know we have all been treated, how we have all been treated, and they don't give a mess still happens to them. And so this is what I'm saying. It's crazy because people will claim, like, yeah, you're right. I'll see these people who get on there and claim, oh, everything is fine, there's no issues, but then still claim. In fact, Lucas did a video about it, about this person who claimed to have been well, anyway, I don't even want to talk about that person specifically, but the person gives the example of little Timmy and talking about uh how, like, oh, if white people are the minority, then we'll be discriminated against. It's like, wait a minute. So you're admitting that now black people and other minorities are being discriminated against? Like that was almost an admission. Um, white liberals and white conservatives are both just as racist. White liberals are just better at dressing up their racism. And so, like, it's crazy that conservatives will point out the racism from white liberals and then claim that systemic racism doesn't exist. It's like, but you just said that these liberals that are running they're running the school systems, they're running the legislatures in these areas, in inner city areas. You're saying that they're racist, and you acknowledge that they control the inner cities, but there's no systemic racism. How does that work? Um, yeah, ever notice every mainstream black conservative says the exact same thing about us? And that's the point. So, and I'm actually planning to do a video about this because Sonny Johnson talked about it this past weekend, and there was a book that there was a black Republican that wrote a book about the kind of black conservatives, and he wrote this book some years ago, which is like, wow. So like he saw because he was there, he got to see the dichotomy of these different groups of black conservatives, and he saw how the mainstream, the establishment of the Republican Party, will only accept these so-called colorblind conservatives. That's it. If they're conscious about their blackness, if they're aware of their blackness, if they care about the black community, they get rejected by the mainstream establishment of the Republican Party. Hit that like button. I wrote the teacher a pissed off email, then they apologized and gave my son an A+ and took it out of the curriculum for the next year. Like, yeah, because like they get away with that stuff and they think, hey, it's no problem. No problem. Nobody cares. Nobody will mind. Growing up, I never understood why all the white parents would offer to pay for my sports trips and equipment and treat us like we were poor if we didn't stay in the same upscale community as them. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Hit the like button. Um, yeah, Tatum is yeah, it's almost like he's doing comedian. It would be funny. It is funny. And it's also sad, but it's also funny. So now the interesting thing is that that's not the only this is not the only instance of cops racism being shown by like text. And so there's another case uh, out of Torrance, also California, and this case is from last year. So in fact, it's from last year, and it's leading into this year because the you've got Torrance officers were accused of racist text, um, anti-Semitic text, and they said the public defender's office has 100 cases involving this stuff. So there's so these are more than a dozen officers that were exchanging racist, anti-Semitic, anti-gay text, like this a separate police department. It's also in California, but it's a separate police department, separate officers, and it's creating an environment where people are like, wow, like there's a lot of this stuff going on. This stuff is coming to the surface by bits and pieces when we actually see when for some reason they actually have a reason to look at these cops' texts and everything, then they start finding evidence that there's more stuff going on, that the stuff that they're not saying explicitly in front of and in some cases they may be saying this stuff in front of suspects and people they're arresting, but a person can complain, and guess what? It'll be the cop's word saying, "Oh, I never said that." They're lying, and they will just take the cop's word for it. They will take the cop's word for it, and then that's it. But now, once we actually get the text messages, once we actually get the actual evidence that this has been going on, now all of a sudden people are like, "Oh wow, so these cops actually are racist." There is a lot of racism going on in the police department. Yes, there is. And so and Gascon has gotten a lot of heat for some of his policies, but it's clear to me that the real reason why they hate him is because he's going after dirty cops. He's going after crooked cops. He's going after racist cops. He's going, and I think like that was one of the things he did. He actually ran on it. He ran on accountability for the police department. He ran on making sure that there was accountability in the police department. And the police department doesn't like that. They don't like having to have be under the to be under the gun and under scrutiny, because accountability is only supposed to apply to everybody else. What both left and right don't realize is that most black households are conservative but vote Democrat because they like the policies and feel they can help their community. And even if they don't like the policies, because there are a lot of black people who don't like the policies, but they feel they have no option. So a lot of black people will vote for Democrats because either there's no Republicans, available, or the Republicans are saying stupid stuff like, well, yeah, oh, we're not trying to I don't have any black policies. I have American policies, but they will have policies for all of these other groups, and they will cater to other special interests. But then when it comes to black people, all of a sudden they don't have any demographic specific policies. And so that's why black people say, okay, what's the point of voting for you if you're going to intentionally and explicitly not try to get my vote, and you're telling me you're not going to do anything for me. You're making it clear that you're not going to do anything for me. So, like, yeah, really, what sense does it make for me to vote for you? Tatum thought the song from the Boondocks. Yes, yes, yes. But the left promises the sun and moon, and that's exactly what they do, because they just have to speak the words. So it's like a dude that it's like a chick that's dealing with two dudes. One dude is gonna tell her, "You ain't nothing. Like you're lucky I stay with you." And like, my, you're ugly. You can't cook. Like like there's no reason. Like, I'm staying with you though, because I'm just because I'm just that good a dude. I'm just that good. I'm just that good hearted. And then you have another dude that will then tell her, "You're beautiful. You're special. You're smart. You're funny. You're like you don't deserve that. You need somebody to care for you and to take care of you." And so who she's more likely to, like, she's like, okay, this guy's telling me I'm actual special. Okay. And she gets with this other guy, and then he does nothing for her. He's nothing for her. He just says nice things once in a while, but he does nothing for her. He cheats on her. But but he still makes her feel special every now and again. Whereas the other guy just tells her she's trash. And so that's like where the black community is at, where you've got somebody that's who will have Candace Owens on saying that the black community is just a murderous community. Black culture is murderous. Black culture is the most violent culture in existence. And then and then she runs an organization called Blexit that's supposed to be uh, reaching out to black voters. Like, make it make sense. It doesn't, and she doesn't. Um, Jericho Green is a clown. I'm not too familiar with him. ABL, I know ABL. Yes, I definitely know ABL. Um, he brutalized himself when he was a cop. Um, I always considered flip flop voting, but I watched primaries, and the Republicans have never been any good at hiding their racism. Yeah, they don't even try. And so there's, and so yeah, I got to really do this video, because like that, I was talking about that book that talked about the different types of conservatives there are. There's the there's a the conscience conservatives who, and you've got conservatives that actually care about the black community, and I've watched them over the past couple of years, like, really trying to make a case. And there's white conservatives who support them, but those white conservatives don't happen to be running the show. Those white conservatives that support them aren't the ones that are running the Republican Party. So the ones that are running the Republican Party are the ones that will only want your clowns like Tatum, Owens, and ABL. Um, yeah, I remember there was a cop here in New York City that went from being a hardcore gang member, turned his life around, become a cop um, after he retired. Okay, you had members of the police, especially Peter Lynch, calling him a thug and all. Wow, that's crazy. Even when you change your life, to them you are nothing. What PragerU is great at is using once an ounce of truth, is using an ounce of truth to form a mountain of misinformation. That's a really good one. Using an ounce of truth to form a mountain of misinformation. I remember his back and forth with that guy. Lucas really did make him look kind of foolish. Yeah. And Cali is the most liberal state in the country. Think about that. Yeah. And that's what's crazy. This is all happening in Cali. Yeah. Russell Brand raised the point that police are really not needed. I agree. I don't think society will collapse without a police force. Okay, so now let me actually, because there's a tweet I want to post. I want to make sure I get the right tweet. Because PragerU, No, no, no. So PragerU had a tweet. I thought I had it. I'm beginning to think that some of these tweets aren't getting loaded. Yeah, I was supposed to have it as a slide, and it's not showing up. Um, but they put a tweet like just recently, and the tweet was, let me see if I can find it. Um, so the tweet says it's about personal responsibility. Um, okay, 1 second. Let me just 1 second. Okay, yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's this is they have a tweet about the about personal responsibility, and I'm like, okay, so personal responsibility that applies to protecting myself. If it's my personal responsibility to protect myself, then guess what? I don't need the police. It's my job to protect myself. What do I need the police for? Reminds me of the Boondocks episode, dark skin and balls. So that means I hold it right there. Bald headed dude from Law and Order. I think Cali's like New York. While many would say it's a blue state, it's really just New York City that makes the state blue. Long Island and upstate is mostly red. Okay. Staten Island too. Dating analogy. Here's the problem with the nice guy this time. Biden told us we weren't. Yeah, I abstained from voting for the first time ever. Yeah, Biden, I was absolutely disgusted. The fact that they made him the nominee, the the fact that they made Joseph Biden the nominee, um, the fact that they made Joseph Biden the nominee after the 2020, like there was an entire national movement against police brutality, government overreach. There was an entire national movement, and the Democratic Party nominated the architect of mass incarceration. That right there was like just a spit. They spit in our faces. They spit in our faces by nominating him, and not just by nominating him, by selecting him. Because remember how he got chosen. Bernie was about to shellac him, but because they wanted to make sure that Bernie wasn't the nominee, they went all out. They went all out to make sure that, hey, Buttigieg, leave, get out. Amy Klobuchar, get out. Everybody, get out the race. Back Biden. Biden was selected, handpicked by the Democratic Party, and it was just an absolute, spitting in the face of the everyone, us. Most conservatives are racist, homophobic, and misogynist, and they wonder why a lot of people do not want to vote for them. There's, I mean, there's so much racist stuff happening just blatantly, and the fact that there's so many that are willing to just go along with it, that's why they get that label. Um, the right treats black people like a stepchild, and they hate us, and the left treats us like a little brother. My mom made them take everywhere they go. Um, Community policing is needed. I'm sorry, but some people commit crimes and they shouldn't be near me. So here's the thing. Number one, law creates crime. Number two, in terms of violence, if you're saying community policing, do you mean that like you're like the community actually policing itself? Because that's something separate than necessarily having to have outsiders come in and police us. Grew up in Cali in the 80s and 90s. Never been progressive or left wing. It's always been liberal, then be racist. Okay. Yeah, Reagan's yeah. Mr. Gun Control. That's NIMBY is not in my backyard. Hypocrites. Yeah, that's another name for them. It would collapse because there are KKK people who would make sure it does. We saw January 6th. That was just a taste. Soccer goal. PragerU is just a propaganda channel. They claim to be against big government, but want to increase police funding. Exactly. Think Biden might use student loan cancellation as a boost for his reelection. He's been saving that for a while now. Think this is going to be his ace in the hole. They didn't. Yeah, smacked us. Yeah. Well, campaign Biden is different from President Biden. Um, so because I know that now that term was in some of the materials, like they were talking about these texts. Um, I thought I used the term anti-gay because so here's the thing about phobia. Phobia is a clinical definition. There's a clinical disorder. A phobia is a clinical disorder. So all of these people using these terms, you're this phobic, you're that phobic, they're just misusing the word phobia because phobia is a clinical disorder, that there's certain criteria that must be met in order to be suffering from a phobia. So like there's a difference so if I see somebody say, if I see that in a text, I'll say something like anti-gay, because yeah, so the one of these guys in the thing was anti-gay and using anti-gay language and stuff. But they will write it in media will write it as homophobic, despite the fact that I'm not. I know that that's a misuse of the word phobia. That's a misuse of the word phobic. Exactly. Um, that Amala chick from PragerU is just light skinned Candace Owens with braids and probably more. Cali liberals are insanely racist. They talk down to us and say how modern rap and crime is our culture. If Biden pulls that off, I will definitely vote for him. Anti-gay is a more appropriate word. I'm sorry to tell liberals, but I don't have an irrational. Yeah, exactly. And so that's why I know phobia isn't phobic. You're talking about actual clinical disorder. There's criteria to be met by that, and that's not what we're usually dealing with. There may be somebody who actually suffers from that fear, but that's not the way they're using the word. In the best neighborhoods have the fewest police, and places with the most police have the most crime. It's clear police. Exactly. Yeah, she's I think Nigerian and white, something like that. So yeah, she's definitely not helping end the diaspora war for sure. But yeah, so I just wanted to lastly touch on the Patrick Loyola case. That case is it's a really bad case. I've watched the video, and I don't even want to specifically the video. that his friend, the guy, it's the passenger that's with him in the car, takes video. That video I don't want to post because it's graphic. It's graphic. You see him have Patrick down, and you see the bullet just pop. But it's it's a graphic video. But this just happened, and this keeps happening. So when I'm seeing these people just with spouting this ridiculous propaganda, I cannot take it seriously. It's just like, stop. Like, y'all are full of it. Like, we're watching over and over and over again, um evidence that y'all are liars, that y'all will choose to look the other way because it doesn't affect you. In fact, the fact that she says in her thing, she says, oh, well, we may have to talk about police brutality, but we shouldn't center it around race. What that means is we don't care if it's happening to black people. We're not going to care about police misconduct, police brutality. We're not going to care if it's happening to black people. That's what she's saying, and that's PragerU's ultimate message. And that's why, like, I can't take these people seriously. And I said I got to do a video just roasting them because and just exposing them for the absolute frauds, and propagandists that they are. Uh, and so the question is, like, with this Patrick case, um, what's going to happen? Already there's already been a lot of outrage in that city based on activity. Grand Rapids, they've already had problems with the police, and it hasn't been addressed. So now it's the question is, like, what's going to happen? And they've been marching, and hopefully something. I can't even say hopefully something, because I know that it's more about police training isn't going to end this. Like, there really needs to be stripping the police of power. There needs to be stripping the police of power, stripping the legislatures of power, um, because that's what's creating these incidents, and causing these incidents to occur. I have nothing against homosexuals, but they shouldn't be teaching kids about it about without all point of view. It and promiscuity destroyed Rome, but they don't teach anyone that. So here, my thought is, I get why parents don't want their kids being taught this in school, and like that's one of the problems with letting these people, because the governments have been, these schools have been teaching kids stuff, and they've been not just teaching them facts, they've been teaching them um, other things, and so it's always been a problem. It's just interesting that that now people are pushing back because um, they're doing it in one specific way. Don't believe teachers are out there teaching about the pros of homosexuality. They can't even get black. Well, I wanted to thank everybody for coming out to the stream. You'd be surprised. Yeah, I want to thank everybody for coming out to the stream. Um, yeah, I mean, this is a topic that I really wanted to touch on. And as we saw, like, just recently, like just this week, there's incidents and stuff coming forward that's showing us that the nonsense that PragerU is talking about is just that absolute nonsense. So thanks everyone for coming out to the stream. If you haven't hit the like button already, go ahead and hit the like button. Thanks to everyone who's watched the stream, who's uh, hit the like button already. If you can lie to a kid about Santa, you can. And everyone, have a great rest of your day. Uh, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Thank you.